one of the most powerful tools that I've used to help my clients lose weight and to keep it off for good wasn't some fancy diet or some supplement that they were told to buy and use. It was actually becoming aware of the things that they're currently eating. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how tracking can transform your relationship with food without becoming obsessive with it. I'm Coach Danny. I'm a nutrition coach who focuses on all things wellness with women, especially who have battled the all or nothing thinking, the restrictive dieting cycle, to help them better understand how to fuel their bodies and how to feel better for good instead of trying to restrict themselves. So I've had a client, Madeline, who was really stuck in that all or nothing mindset of having to restrict and eat practically nothing, 1,200 calories, and work her butt off doing cardio. And after working with me, after dropping over 10 pounds, not only was it the physical transformation that she had, it was the mental too. She was like, I don't have this guilt around my food. I can still have my pizza nights with my family and still feel confident that I can maintain this mindset around food and also maintaining that healthy lifestyle that she wanted to have. So I've seen clients try every diet under the sun, and the thing that finally gets them the results that they wanted is when they simply start tracking their food in a healthy and balanced way. Okay, so the reason why tracking is so important is because most people dramatically underestimate the amount of food or what they eat by 20 to 30%. So, I've had a client who was like, I got them to do a 5-day assessment of tracking their food and being really honest about exactly where they're at. And after the 5 days was over, she was like, I can't believe how much I eat. Oh my gosh. And so I was like, yeah, just having that awareness piece to start was huge, right? So it's not about judging yourself either, like tracking your food and being aware of your intake. It's not judgment. It's about having some data to say, okay, what's the plan from here? Like, where can I go from where I'm at versus just making a random blanket approach, right? So when we think about tracking itself versus obsessing, which we've definitely put those two together, which is tracking is obsessive. When we can start to separate the two, tracking is more of a means of, tracking your food isn't a lifestyle, it's a tool to use currently to help change your lifestyle, right? And when we are obsessing with tracking, that's trying to hit numbers perfect and trying to eat as little as possible. And that's where things start to become really obsessive. But the goal is to use tracking temporarily to develop awareness and to not track forever so that you know exactly what your food's made up of. You have the knowledge of what your food is giving you. And I always say awareness is power. So when we have that awareness, we have the power to make different decisions based on what we now know, right? So for me, I was so clueless in terms of what protein, carbs, and fats were, macronutrients. And I was like, how I need to cut everything out. I need to do this. I can't have this. And when I started to track my food and see, okay, how much protein am I having? How many carbs am I having? And how much I could actually have, I was like, oh my gosh, I could have carbs and lose weight. Mind blown, right? So when I started to learn that, because at one point I didn't know that. I didn't know anything about how to properly fuel my body. So once I used tracking as a tool to understand what I was having and not having and how I could add, that was when my mind was like, oh, I understand what it takes to take care of myself, right? So essentially what we're trying to do here with tracking is to, step one, do it without judgment, right? Even on the bad days, even on those days you're like, oh, I just didn't feel like I made all the right decisions. I messed up. It's like, no, we're just looking and being aware. We're being curious about what we're currently doing with our habits. And then from there, we can look at the patterns and not look at trying to be perfect with anything, right? It's like, okay, what are the patterns showing me? Maybe you're under eating drastically one day and then the next day you're binge eating and you're like, what is happening here? And you're putting some pieces together, you're going, oh, that adds up, right? So if we're not tracking that and we are just trying to figure it out and we just feel like we're failing all the time, it's really hard to put those pieces together. And then from there, when we have that, awareness, we can start to make small adjustments that are sustainable for us to actually put in place so that it feels in line with the lifestyle we want to have and the goals that we want to reach. Okay, so it's really about looking at where you're currently at and where you want to go and making small steps to get there. So think about this. If you are running a race and you were told, okay, you're going to go run 5K and the track is over there. And you're like, okay, the track is over there, but exactly where? Like, where's the starting line? They're like, it's over there. And you're like, okay, but where? You have no idea where you're starting at, right? So it's like, how do you get to 5K if you don't even know where you're starting from? So with tracking, it's the same thing. It's like you get to see exactly where that starting line is and where you can start to make steps towards the finish line. And so you know exactly where to go, right? And so this is really what I have my clients do for the first week of working with me, is to build that awareness in. So that 5 days of assessment before we even get into the coaching process is looking at exactly where you're at so we can build a plan that actually fits for you based on what you're currently doing, and taking that one step at a time versus trying to just make a blanket recommendation based off of what we don't know, right? So that awareness piece is huge for you to understand, and then for me to also understand to be able to help you, right? So tracking isn't about restriction. It's about empowering yourself with the knowledge of like, okay, what am I currently doing and how can I add to my day and how can I create habits around the things that I want to achieve without feeling restrictive or obsessive, right? So I encourage you, if you haven't done this before, if you've never tracked before, I encourage you to do a bit of a 5-day tracking challenge and to really go into it with curiosity, with no judgment, and to be really honest with yourself to say, hey, like, where am I currently at? I'm really curious, because if I'm not if I don't feel good, if I'm not where I'm at physically or mentally with my food, then how can I start to really understand where I'm at, right? So take 5 days, track everything for those 5 days. I know it sounds like a lot, but you're gonna learn a lot about yourself and your habits by doing this, and just being really honest with yourself and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. And then I encourage you to send me a message, either comment down below, or you can send me a message on Instagram at wellnesswithdanny.s, and share with me how that 5 days went. Was there an aha moment that you had that was like, oh my gosh, like after tracking those 5 days, I realized this, right? Or maybe you're like, oh, I didn't realize how much protein I was having or wasn't having, right? So I'd love to hear that from you guys. And I also want to know, like, what's one thing that you felt that you took away from this video? Was there something that you were like, you know what, that is something that I didn't even think about before? So as you might have guessed, in my 12-week program, we use tracking as a tool to better understand exactly where you're at. And it's a tool that's helpful to help you create a healthier relationship with food so that you can achieve your goals, understand yourself better, and have that power of knowledge in your back pocket so that you can succeed, not just for right now, but for good. Cool. Like and subscribe if you guys really enjoyed this, and let me know. I really can't wait to hear from you guys how that 5 days of tracking goes. Peace.